Hey everybody. So last night he had a pretty decent night. However, today he had some more pressure swings. And I know y'all keep hearing me talk about this. I don't know that I've ever actually explained why they're scary or bad. But your blood pressure is basically a metric that shows how well your heart is squeezing or how strong it is. And so typically when he wakes up and gets mad, it shoots up. This happens to all of us too. You get angry or anything like that. It's, we turn red, you can hear blood in your ears, that kind of thing. Your blood pressure's high. And so, for us who have healthy hearts, it still puts stress on our heart, but it's not a huge deal. For him, several surgeries in the last week, it's kind of bad because you don't want his heart to be super stressed. So you don't want that blood pressure getting up high because it's still trying to heal. The scarier part of that is when it goes down, which is showing that something is not doing right, it's not strong enough. And when it starts going down, it means you're having low cardiac output, which leads to cardiac arrest. So when they swing, whether it be really high or really low, neither of them is good, but we really don't want low because low is really scary. And most of the ones that we've seen in the last several days have been low, and they've been able to kind of handle them, put him back in his range, keep him where he's supposed to be. However, that's why y'all hear me talk about them so much, and why we're so scared of them is because they are scary, especially when he goes. But he also, again, gets mad sometimes. He gets awake, which is why we have to increase the sedation. And then the sedation in and of itself causes some swings because a lot of them have what are called a hypotensive effect, meaning it makes his blood pressure swing down. Usually after he gets it, it just kind of swings down, then rebounds. But again, it's still kind of scary to watch, especially if he's already pretty close to the lower end of his range. Now, the other thing they're worried about in terms of pressure is his CVP. And that is his central venous pressure. And specifically what it does is kind of measure that right side of the heart. And if y'all remember, the right side is the side that has that hypertrophy, meaning that thickening, that stiffness, which is why it has some decreased function. And that's why they're really concerned about that CVP, is because it's an indicator of how much stress that can take. And his has been elevated, and they don't want to, the same reason why when the blood pressure gets elevated, they don't want to have more stress on it. They don't want more stress on that right side because it's already weakened. And so that is one of the things they've been monitoring pretty closely. However, he has been progressively getting better with it. And so that is a good thing. It was at 20, 21 yesterday, and it's been staying more so in the mid to high teens today. So they did say it's going to be elevated considering all the surgeries, and over time it should just kind of work its way on down. Now, you may be wondering why I went all that explanation of CVP and central venous pressure, why that's a big deal. It's because today, remember we've been talking about him creating the margins and getting better little by little every day. Today he kind of took a step back and he had to use some of those margins because his CVP was getting too high. It was getting in the low 20s, 21, 22. And so in order to alleviate that, one of the things that can help it also is the ventilator, which helps relieve some pressure on it. And so they used some of it. They also went up on his epi a little bit to 0.04. He was at 0.03. And so those things helped him get that CVP back in check and make things safer for him. And so again, not every day is going to be a step forward. Sometimes we're going to have a day like today where it's a little step back. And this isn't a linear process, which again, if y'all have been with us, y'all know this. It doesn't go from point A to point B in a straight line. We kind of go up and then down and then up and down. So today was just a day where we took a little step back and had to use some of those margins that we had made in the previous days. And we're just going to pray that tomorrow he'll continue stepping forward. He is still in the Arctic sun. They had considered putting him in monitor mode today, but they're going to wait until tomorrow. They're going to try and diurese him tonight, which means get him to pee off a lot of fluid. That's one of the things that can help that CVP is less fluid in his body. So get him to pee that off. He has less fluid, less pressure on that CVP, which is, again, a good thing for the right side of his heart. And then he also started meropenem today. His white blood cell count and his CRP, which are two indicators of an infection, went back up. And so because of that, they decided to put him on a very strong, broad antibiotic called meropenem, and that will help him if he does have an infection. He'll be on it for 48 hours, and then we'll see how he does after that. Also, Hunter spent the day with Gigi at her bridal shower and then went to Mimi's pool and ate hot dogs, so he's just living life. And Mallory and I went upstairs back to the 11th floor and just kind of enjoyed the view up there where it was quiet. If y'all are ever in the situation of being here, which I hope none of you are, but if you do go to Duke Central Tower and you are here for a while, and it is a good place to kind of go where it's quiet and you kind of look at the view and just kind of clear your head for a while. Now for the prayer request, obviously I know everybody's praying that he'll remain stable, but the two things in particular, if you'll pray that the meropenem will continue working, get rid of the infection, which by default will get rid of the fever and make things a little easier for him in terms of his recovery. And then also that he will keep his pressures in check, kind of stay in the ranges that they want him to be. And so that way he doesn't have these scares that are scaring us, but also that it does not stress out his heart too much. Again, on the high end, stressing out too much. On the low end, leads to cardiac arrest. So we don't like either of those. We like him to stay right there in that range where they've got for him, which right now is about 50 to 65 points for his mean arterial pressure, the average of his blood pressure. They want him to stay somewhere in that 50 to 65 range. So pray that he'll kind of stay in there and stay where he's supposed to. But that's all I got for you today. It's relatively short and sweet. Have a good night. God bless. And Jon David, tell everybody bye-bye.